Hi guys, in this video I'm going to go over how to make macros run when you're sleeping. So let's say you have your job requires you to run 15 different macros, and that's what you have to do when you come into work. Well, I'm going to show you how to run all those macros before you get into work when you're not even there in the middle of the night. So let's get started. But before we do, I want to remind everyone to go to excelvbasequel.com, and you could watch all these videos. There's over hours and hours of videos, 6 hours right now, and you could download all these files if you don't want to write the code or if you want to practice or whatever. Okay, so let's start talking about how do you make macros run um, in the early before you get into work when you're sleeping. Okay, so um, let me open up this workbook. It's just a Excel workbook, and what I want to do is I'm going to go into the Visual Studio Editor, and I'm going to insert a module, and I'm just going to write a simple macro called my macro. And this is where all your complex code would go. If you had 15 different macros, you know, in one workbook, you could put them here. And later on, I'll show you how to run macros from different workbooks. So you could have 15 different workbooks, 15 different macros. You could run them all while you're sleeping. Okay, so let's see how we do this. So to start off, I'm just going to write a simple macro that's going to put the date and time in the cell. And I'll show you. Here's a macro that puts the date in cells 1, 1, which is cell A1. So if I run this, you'll see here's the date. Okay. Let me format this so I could see the time as well. So I have the date and the time, but I actually, I don't. That's not the correct time, so I have to go back in here. And when you use date in VBA, it just puts the date. It doesn't put the time. So if you want the time, you have to put now. Okay. So if we run this again, here we go. We have the date and the time. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to write a real complex macro, but this is you could consider this the macro that would have all kinds of logic in it, functions doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, so now how do we make this run when you're sleeping, when you're not at work? So how do you make it work when you're not there? Um, well, what we're going to do is we're going to um, use a tool to open this workbook and run the macro. And this is all going to happen while you're not even there. And that the tool we're going to use to open the workbook, I'm going to talk about in a second. But once the workbook is open, so okay, we have this tool, it opens up the workbook. How do we make the macro run? Well, that's really easy. So let's copy the name of this macro called my macro. And now we're going to go to this Microsoft Excel Objects folder in the Project Explorer. We're going to click on this workbook, and you get a screen like this with two drop-down lists. One says General, one says Declarations. Now, what you want to do is change this General drop-down list to Workbook, and automatically you get a subroutine that pops open that says private sub workbook underscore open. Now, what that is we're all aware that Microsoft Excel VBA is object-oriented, and it comes with objects, default objects. And watch the video on the object model to understand that. But in that video, I mentioned that objects have methods and they have properties, and I also mentioned that one of the methods is events, so that when an object is opened, that's an event. There is a method or a function that you can call, and you could write code to do stuff when it opens. So look at this. So we have a workbook object here. Okay, here it is. Now if I go to this drop-down list, I have all these methods, also called functions, whatever you want to call them, and you can select one. And if I select new sheet, here is a function that belongs to this workbook object. And you can write code to say, okay, when a new worksheet is added, let me do something. Okay, it's pretty cool because you don't really have to write the subroutine code. Um, it just, as soon as you double click something here, so if I put sheet calculate, it automatically, here's the sheet calculate function, and then you could write code. So these are events, and we can now use this event to call our macro to make it run. So when the workbook opens, I want to call my macro. And remember, my macro was this macro over here in this module that just puts the date in the cell. Okay. So one more word on this whole area is that another common event that is used is besides the open event, is the before close. Okay, so that's, just keep that in mind. If you want to do something before the workbook closes, you would just go up here and you would double click this, and now you can write code, and you could call a macro or do whatever before the workbook closes. Okay, so now we have our workbook that that when it opens, we're going to call this macro. Okay, so let's test this. Okay, right now it says 9:10 in there, and right down here the time is 9:14. Okay, so let's save this workbook. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close it, and then here it is. This is the workbook. It's not open anymore, and what I'm going to do is double click and open it, and what should happen is the time should show in that cell, and sure enough, there's the time, 9:14 and 47 seconds. Okay, so that's pretty cool. All right, that's actually real cool, because now we have a function that when the workbook opens, we can write code, and we could call all kinds of macros and do all kinds of stuff. Now the only issue is, how do we make this workbook open so it can call all those macros? So let me show you something here. It's real easy, and this is, I'm going to close this, and this is the real trick to the whole thing. Okay. There's if you go into all programs, and you go into, if you scroll up and you go to accessories, and you go down to system tools, there's a thing called task scheduler. Okay, so where is this again? This is all programs, accessories, and then system tools. There's something called task scheduler. Now this is on a Windows computer. I don't have anything in a Mac. I don't have a Mac, so this is only for Windows, but most offices use Windows, I would say, so you should be pretty safe, and I'm pretty sure a Mac has the same sort of task scheduler. So this is it. I mean, this is the trick to make macros run at 3 a.m. or whenever, before you get into work. Okay, so when you open this up, what you see is just an overview of the task scheduler here. Then you have task status. Okay, so here's all the tasks, and you could see, these tasks are running on my computer right now. In parentheses, it has the task, and if you tree into it, it says the run result is unknown. It's let's see, this one is still running. So all these tasks, they're happening without you even knowing it, because some programs that you download or whatever, or have installed, they use this task scheduler, and they're aware of these tasks that are running. So here you see the task status, right? And this just tells you the status of a task. First, I should define what a task is. All a task is it's going to open up our workbook. That's a task, okay? And then down here, if I scroll down a bit, I have something called active tasks. Now this is where you're going to be able to, double click on something and make changes to stuff, okay? So that's so you could double click stuff, and you could make changes to your tasks. Okay, so let's see how we set up a task. Okay, all right, so to set up a task, you go over here to create basic task, and I'm not going to go real deep into this task scheduler. I'm only going to show you what you need to know to make your VBA macros run, at 3 a.m. or whenever you want. Okay, so I clicked on this create basic task. I come over here to name, and I'm just going to name this work while I sleep. You can name it whatever you want. And next, you go down here, you go to next, and it's going to ask you, when do you want the task to start? Do you want it every day, every week, every month, one time, when the computer starts, when I log on, when a specific event is logged? All kinds of options. It's really flexible. I'm going to say I want this to run daily. I'm going to click next. And then when do I want it to start? I'm going to say I want it to start at 9:20 and 00 seconds p.m. and I want it to recur every one day. So I'm going to click next, and then it says, what action do you want the task to perform? Well, I don't want it to send an email or display a message. I want it to start a program. So I click next, and now it asks for the program or script, and this is where you browse to the actual Excel file. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to find this open macro.xlm. These arguments here, add arguments and start in, I honestly don't know what those are used for. I would Google it and find out, but it's not necessary. Okay, it's not necessary. So there you browse to your file, then you click next, and here you see a summary. Here's a name, work while I sleep. It's going to happen daily, every day at 9:20 p.m. It's going to open this workbook. Okay, and now I'm going to click finish. And now let's check the time. It's 9:19. Okay, cool. So now let's watch the workbook. Here it is, 9:20. It just happened. Did you see that? Okay, so that happened real fast, but it worked out right because if I go back to this task manager, you can see if I open this up and I go to in this here, let me scroll up. If I scroll back up to this task status over here, right? Let me find my task in here. So once you set up a task, it's going to have a task status. And let me scroll down. And let's see. Oh, I got to refresh this. Sorry. So I had to refresh because it wasn't in the list. But let me scroll down now. Okay, so here it is, right? It says work while I sleep. And if I scroll down, now this says running, right? And it said it started at 9:20. It says it didn't end. It doesn't have an end time, and I believe that's because I didn't close the workbook. So if I close this and I say, do I want to save changes? Yes. And then we refresh this. I believe we're going to see that there's an end time. Yep. So here now, if I tree into this again, sorry for scrolling back, I apologize. But now we have an end time, right? And it says the run result was a success. So that's it. You see that we set up a basic task here using this create basic task, and then when it ran, you have a task status, and it'll say success or failure, and a runtime, and a start time, and an end time, and a triggered by time schedule. Now it also appears down here in this active tasks area. Okay, and again, if I scroll down, again, I apologize for scrolling so much, but let me refresh this. I actually think I might have to close out to see it down here in this active task area because I don't see it right now. Oh yeah, here it is. Sorry, I took some time finding it. Okay, so in this active task area, now I have a task set up. So now you're basically done. Okay, so what I did is you make a macro, and then you go into that this workbook area, and in the open event, you say call the macro, and then you set up a task right here in this active task that is going to run it every day at 9:20 every day. It's going to run it every day, right? And the next, it even shows you the next runtime. So this is going to happen tomorrow at 9:20, right? But let's say we want to change the time instead of 9:20, change it to something else. So how do you do that? Well, you just double click right here, and now you get this window popped up, right? And you have a general and the triggers. So you want to go to triggers, and you get this daily at 9:20, and the status is enabled. So I want to double click that, or actually no, I want to scroll down. Let's see. Do you double click that? Let's see. Sorry, my mouse is kind of acting up. I believe you double click that. Let's see. Scroll down. Change these triggers. Open the task property pages using the properties command. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. So you got to go over here, and you got to do properties. Sorry, I don't really use this too much in this version. I think I have Vista on this computer. I use it on I think Windows 7. So anyways, okay, so how did I get that? Sorry for taking a bit of time. So you go into your active task, and then you go to the triggers tab, and now you go to the selected over here on this right panel. You do properties, and now you can change the time. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm just going to change this time to, I don't know, I'll change it to 35. Okay, and I'll click OK. And there's all kinds of other stuff you can do. So if you wanted this to repeat the task every hour, you can do that. For a certain duration, you could do that. You can stop the task if it runs longer than 3 days or 20 minutes. You can enable it or disable it. You can make it run monthly, weekly, whatever. I mean, this is very super flexible, and this is how you want to, when you become a VBA programmer, don't just stop at writing your macros and doing things in Excel. Go the extra step and create a task so that your macros run while you're not even there, because it's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of time, and you're going to be able to do a lot more throughout your day. Okay, so I changed it to 9:35. Right now it's 9:26. So I'm just going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK again. And now let's go back to our workbook here, because let's think about this. When this ran, remember the workbook didn't close, right? Because if I go into the code, all the macro does is it opens up the workbook, and then it runs the macro, and that's fine. And if that's all you want to do, that's totally fine. But what happens if you only want the macro to run before you get into work, and afterwards you don't? And that's basically how I do things, and how it's a good strategy, because if you're already at work, you don't want to have it running when you open it up, because you might need to make changes to the workbook. Okay, so you don't. Basically, what I'm saying is you don't want to come into work, open up the file, and then have this super long macro run that you don't want it to run because it already ran at 3 a.m. So let's write some logic in here to say only run the macro at a certain time or on a certain day. Okay, so and then let's save it. Let's save the workbook and also close the workbook. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to say I only want to run the macro on Monday to Friday. So how do I do that? Well, I do dim w as integer, and now I'm going to set w equal to the weekday function of the date and VB Sunday. So what this function does, it says, you know, I pass in the date. It takes a parameter of a date, and it's going to tell me what day of the week it is. And then you ask, well, what scale is it? You have 7 days in a week. What's the first day? What's the seventh day? Well, that's what this parameter is for. Okay, so VB Sunday. Let's see. 1 is equal to Saturday, I think. We'll check. And 7 is equal to Sunday. So this VB Sunday parameter, it's going. If you pass that in, then 1 is going to equal. Actually, no. See, 1 is going to equal Sunday, and 7 is going to equal Saturday. Because whatever you pass in here, it's going to be the first day. Okay. So now we can do something. We can put an if statement around this and say if w1 does not equal 1 and w1 does not equal 7, then run it. And if. So now I just put logic in here to say when this workbook opens, if it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, then run this macro. But on Saturday or Sunday, I don't want it to run. Now I'm just showing you, for example, how you would do something like this. You don't have to do it this way. Okay, but now I want to also say only run it at a certain time. So how do I do that? So you can just declare a variant, and you don't even have to declare it, but I'm just going to have time as a variant. I'm going to put time is equal to time. Actually, let me make this x time. Okay. So now I have the time. This here, when you put that in VBA, it gives you the current time. So let's just step through this so we can see this. I'm going to put a watch on this variable, and I'm also going to put a watch on this variable. Okay, so we can see what are these things doing. Okay, so I'm stepping through, and if we go down here, W is equal to 5. That's because today is a Thursday. It's a 5, so it's the 5th day of the week. Tomorrow is Saturday, or tomorrow is Friday. That's a 6, and Saturday is going to be a 7. And then the time here, I just said x time is equal to time. If I look at x time, it says 9:30 and 45 seconds. Okay, so notice the format of this time. So when I want to say, this is how I would do it if I want the macro to run only before, say, 7 a.m. I would do x time is less than, and you put it in quotes, and you put 7 a.m. Okay, so now you have something pretty powerful. Now you have a macro that will run. We could also change the scheduler, but this is how it'll work. At any time before 7 a.m., if this workbook is opened and it's a Monday through Friday, it's going to run the macro. Okay. And maybe you're asking, well, what is less than 7 a.m.? Well, it's just 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and any a.m. less than 7. So 12 a.m. to 6:59 a.m. If it's open at any of those times, it's gonna run the macro. And how I would do that is I would go in here, and I would go back to this properties tab, and I would change this trigger to say, okay, run it at 6, let's say 30 a.m. So when you do this, you want to know how long your macro takes to run. If your macro takes 5 minutes, don't start it at 6:59. Or actually, you could start at 6:59, but you just have to open it before 7 a.m. But don't do it at 7 a.m. Or to be safe, do it 10 minutes before. So here I would set this up for 6:30 a.m. I would click OK, And then when it's opened, if I go back in here, when it's opened, it's going to say, is it less than 7? And because it opens at 6:30, it's going to say yes. And is it a weekday? It's going to check that weekday thing, and then it's going to run the macro. Okay? So that's how I would set up this to run on a daily basis. Say, whatever time you get into work or whatever, or if you build this for other users, you can do this on their computer too, if they have Windows. Okay? And you can just test schedule. A couple other things. So let's also save this workbook. So how we do that? How do we do that? Active workbook.save. Okay. Now let's also close the workbook. Okay. So actually, let me put this in these parentheses, because if I close the workbook outside of this if, anytime it opens, it's just going to close. When you want to close Excel, use application.quit. Okay, and I could show you why here. Let me show you why here. Sub test, and if I do active workbook.close, if I want to close a workbook, you can do it like this: active workbook.close, right? And if I just step through that, it comes up with this dialog box, right? Well, we don't want that. So I just stepped through this and it popped up these boxes, right? So I'm going to say cancel this. And in order to get rid of that dialog box, go into this open sub and just do application dot display alerts is equal to false. Okay, so this line here is going to take away what we just saw, that message box. Okay, so let's run this. Actually, to activate that, I have to put that down here too. So let me just run this. And now I'm going to do active workbook.close. Okay. First, let me save it real quick. And now let me do close. And okay, it closed it. Okay, so active workbook.close closes the workbook. But look at what it leaves open. It leaves open this thing here. Well, I don't want that open. So you have to, I want to get around that, right? So how do I do that? Let me go back into the code and go here. And instead of doing active workbook.close, I'm going to do application.quit. Okay, so when you have that blue screen that doesn't seem to close, use application.quit, because watch this. So now if I run that, the whole thing closes. The whole Excel instance closes. Okay, so okay, now we know whether to use active workbook.close or application.quit. So here I put, let me just delete this sub here, and let me close this. Let me tighten that up a little bit. Okay, so we have our subroutine, and it looks pretty good. We get a weekday, a weekday variable, a time variable. We set this equal to false so that we don't have to deal with message boxes when we try to save or quit the workbook. When we try to quit it, it would ask us unless we do that to false. Okay, and also we put our logic in to say only run the macro when it's less than when time is less than 7 a.m. and it's a weekday, right? Okay, cool. So let's run this one more time just to show you again how it works. So the time now is 9:37. So let me just put 9:40. I'm going to put PM here. And I'm going to save this, right? And now I'm going to close this. And I'm going to close this again, and notice that it says 9:26. Next time I open that at 9:41, I'm going to actually, it's 9:37. So let me go in here and change this to 39. Okay. So I'm going to close it. I close the workbook. I go back into my task scheduler and I go back over here to properties, and I'm going to say triggers. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to tell it to open at 9:39. Actually, 9:38 and 50 seconds. So I'm going to say just to see. Okay, so now it's 9:38, right? As soon as it gets to 50 seconds, the workbook is going to open and it's going to run that macro. So now we're just waiting. I just want to do it again so you guys see that it works with that logic in there, Monday to Friday and less than a time. So we're just going to wait a little bit. And it changed to 9:39. Let me go back here. So let me check something here. Let's go into the workbook and see, because it didn't run. It might be because of if the time is less than 9:39. Okay, let's change it to 41. Let me just run it right here. I'm just going to run it. I open it up. It should run. Okay, so it worked when I ran it there. And now let me open it up again. And I'm going to try to get the scheduler to work. It says 41. Let me change this scheduler. Let me see what happened to it. So okay, so we didn't, here it says the run start was 9:20. So for some reason, it didn't catch that 9:38. It didn't catch that 9:38 one. So I believe this, this is just a matter of timing thing. So let me go back here and let me change this to, I want to change it to 1 minute ahead just to be sure, because I think it was a matter of timing thing. Sorry to make this wait. So I'm going to change this to 9:43 and 0 seconds. Here it is. This was the problem. I believe, no, that was, okay, 9:43 p.m. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click OK. Just to be safe, I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to look at my scheduler, and what is it going to say? I got to refresh this. Here, let me open this up. I apologize for taking a little bit too long here, but it's just there's a lot of tasks in this list. Okay, so let's just wait here for 9:43 to come along. Okay, look it. There it is, right? It opened the workbook. Let's see what's going on here. Ah, I apologize. I apologize. I apologize. So let me go. 9:44. Okay, sorry. This is it. Last time. It's a matter of getting this time to match up. There it is. I just saw something. Well, it looks like it might have deleted the task or something. It certainly ran at 9:43, and this is not reflecting that. This is saying 9:20. Let's see. Did I change something? I just keep refreshing. Here it is. So, okay, I apologize. I don't use Vista and the scheduler in Vista too much. But now we have 45 tasks again because that was what we had before. And here it is again. Here it is. I don't know what happened there, but thanks for being patient. Let me show you though. That this actually does work. I'm going to change this trigger here to 9:46, 46 and 30 seconds just to be safe. I'm going to click OK. So we got it scheduled. Now I'm going to go into this workbook and I'm going to say less than, for this time over here, I'm going to say less than 47. Okay? I'm going to save this. I'm going to close this, and I guarantee you that in about 30 seconds, the workbook's going to open, and it's going to be a success. So let's watch the time down here. Apologies for mixing that up. I don't, like I said, the scheduler in Vista, you just have to press refresh, and I guess it comes back. Okay, 46 should be happening soon. There it is. Okay, and then it closed. Okay, we have success. This is good. This is good. Are you watching? Are you awake? Is everyone there? Okay, so it's going to open and close again because I just opened it. I got to wait till 47, remember? So this is like you haven't come into work yet. You haven't come into work yet because anytime you open it now, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to open it and run the macro. You got to wait till 9:47 to open it and look at the workbook without it closing. Okay, so 9:47, now you come into work. Now we can open the workbook and we can see that the macro did put the correct time in there and it works. Okay, this is big. This is huge. I know you might be confused, you might be frustrated because of the time it took me to figure out that scheduler, but it was really a refresh problem. The fact is that this whole technique of using the scheduler and using this workbook open event is a huge time saver for you, because now you don't have to be at work. One thing only needs to happen. Your computer needs to be on. Okay, if your computer's on, you can run 100 macros while you're not even in the office, while you're sleeping or while you're out doing whatever. And this is big because let's say you leave work and you got to run some macros or something. You gotta open up 55 workbooks or 1,000 workbooks, and you have to do all these calculations in 1,000 workbooks. Well, you can do that. And you don't even need to be in the office. You schedule it, and you call this workbook open event, and it's going to do all the work. You're not even going to be there. You could take the day off. So um, I think this is a huge thing to know. So if you go to an interview, or if you're not using it, I think you should be using it. Or if you're not using something similar, I mean, I think there are some other similar schedulers out there. But this is where you want to get to. You want to get to this point where you're using some sort of scheduler to kick off all your calculations, all your processing, right? Then you don't need to be involved. You don't even need to be there, and things become very efficient. I personally think that this video, I know there's a lot of people on YouTube, and there's millions of programmers in the world, but if everyone watched this video and if they actually implemented these processes, I think a lot of time would be saved, and America would, and the whole world actually, would be more efficient, because you wouldn't have people sitting at their desks just doing work that could have been done at when they were sleeping. I mean, think about that. You can now, say you have a task to do every day and it takes 3 hours. Well, you can write a macro to automate that for certain, because if you do the same thing every day, you can certainly write a macro to automate it. It doesn't matter how complex you think it is; it can be automated. Once you automate it, then why do it when you're there? Do it when you're not there. Let this thing do it. Just have your computer on and just do it like this. And I think if all businesses, and if everyone sort of did sort of this thing, there would be so much more time and people would be so much more efficient that who knows what would happen. The world GDP would rise by 50% or something. Anyways, I think this is an important video if you're programming in VBA, and if you want to advance further in VBA programming. So I would say tell your friends and tell other people, and I hope this video gets 1 million views, and I believe it should get 1 million views, because the world GDP, maybe it will go up 50%. Who knows? Anyways, a reminder, go to excelvbasequel.com. You can watch all these videos. You can download this workbook so you can see where I'm putting the code and things like this. And that's it. So have a good day. And if you have questions, again, contact me at excelvbasequel.com. Thank you.